are back again. I am Cammie, the Hooked Hearty, and you all know my lovely co-host Sarah.
Hey everybody.
You need to think of a hearty name for you.
We can take suggestions. If anybody has
a great yes,
idea.
That's a fabulous idea. Okay, we are now taking suggestions for Sarah's hearty name. Hooked Hearty number 2 does not cut. Yeah, that would be terrible. Okay, so we are here to discuss episode 3 of season 2, Heart and Soul. All right, so first of all, we're going to tackle.
I want to start by addressing what you just told me off camera. You said you were surprised that you had so many interesting things that you found watching this episode when you thought this was kind of a basic run-of-the-mill episode. There wasn't any major revelations happening. But I think that's what I love about season 2 is it is the most underrated season. I think there are aspects of it that people really dislike, and it causes them to kind of forget about all the other big things that happened in season 2.
And watching it an episode at a time or 2 episodes at a time instead of just binging through it is very helpful. Yes. So
there really was a lot of parts in this episode where I was like, this all happened in one episode.
I know.
There were a lot of things
that
I remember that were huge parts of the history of the show.
Yeah, definitely. Including the showing up of another character. I mean, this is big. When you start counting how many brand new characters show up in this season alone, it's just whoa. And then how many of them were
significant
long-term characters. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so let's start off in Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the garden. Okay. Again, they're in the garden again, Charles and Elizabeth, and they have found something. What?
Doesn't that get boring walking around in the same garden?
They don't have a lot to do there. I mean, it's a big city, but really, what are they going to do? They're going to go to another musical performance? Like, there's only so much you can do in high society.
It's true. Especially
the garden walk.
Especially when it's, spur of the moment.
But come on, that was so sweet to see, like, a token from their childhood, something that happened when they were kids. Charles shows off his humor. He's being sweet and kind, and the jokes about almost losing his thumb while trying to carve their initials in this tree. It was such a sweet scene. If it hadn't been Charles, everyone would have been jumping up and down over a scene like that. It was very endearing. And what I think benefits Elizabeth's kind of attitude that this is not a serious romantic interest is she even recalls what he said to her at the time, which was completely about friendship. Granted, they were 9 years old, but even 9-year-olds, if they're carving forever initials in a tree, might see something a little more sweet. And yet he was talking about friendship the whole time. And she's reiterating that we are still such great friends.
Honestly, Sarah, if I didn't know any better, I would think the Hearties had something to worry about. Couldn't resist.
It was such a sweet moment. Who doesn't love initials carved in trees? It's so sweet in TV shows.
Yes, it is. It's just right now, it's the wrong initials in the wrong city. So.
Agreed, but we get those initials later, Hearties. We get them.
In a tree.
In a tree. Okay. It's entry, but still.
But yes, it was very sweet. And he's not a stuffed shirt. he's trying to be profound, but I think he's taking a cue from Elizabeth that she's not being too serious, so he's not going to. And of course, we get the "I still have my thumb." So yeah, and then we have Mother pushing the envelope even more because she's trying to get any opportunity to get Charles and Elizabeth together. And I love what she says. He is such a dear, to say nothing of the fact that he is quite handsome and comes from a wonderful family. And here's where Elizabeth says, my favorite line of the episode, which I almost quoted to you: "Goodness, Mother, if I didn't know any better, I might think Father had something to worry about." It was handled very well. This is a point in season 2 where Elizabeth still kind of has her Coal Valley wits about her. And she's, you can tell that she's still slipping into the Hamilton mode, but she's not going to let her mother manipulate her opinion of Jack and Charles quite yet.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, think about this mother. He carved their initials on their tree.
That's true.
The parents are probably aware of this. So this just adds to the fuel that the parents believe there's something between them. And so they're not completely meddling in some situation they know nothing about. They don't know anything about Jack. They don't know anything about the history that Elizabeth has started building with him, but they do have knowledge of the history between Charles and Elizabeth. And they're not going completely blindly into this, just trying to recommend some random person that she doesn't know with some kind of arranged marriage or anything like that.
It's true.
They are basing this on something. And as a parent, if I thought there was this history between my child and somebody who I think is a great person and a good catch and a good match for them, yeah, I'd probably be, encouraging that.
No hate mail, please, Hearties. She does like Jack.
I have to play the devil's advocate on this because no one else will.
Okay, and then Charles proves himself to be a bit of a hero again when he suggests his friend from university.
Were second opinions not common back then?
Apparently
like this seemed like such a shock to them. Oh, ask another doctor?
Somebody besides Dr. Clement?
We have a doctor.
I don't know. I don't know how popular or how encouraged second opinions were, but this is a very big deal because the whole problem with Elizabeth's mother is the pills that Dr. Clement gave her. That is why she is staying sick. And this doctor saw it right away. I don't know what that other doctor saw. I don't know what Dr. Clement saw that Dr. Lighton didn't, but or vice versa. But wow.
Exactly.
That
I
she
think
would improve that quickly and with such a tiny little turn.
Right. I think it's so interesting. And I think, there's some more stuff later in season 4 that kind of mirrors that a little bit, just with the whole doctors having different opinions. And sometimes it can come down to something really simple that one person just was not aware of. And back then, I mean, I don't know what they had for continuing education for doctors, but if you weren't up on the newest research, I don't know, you could miss something pretty scary.
Very scary.
And this is the entire reason Elizabeth's gone back to Hamilton. She's worried about her mom. Her mom seems to be like coming and going. She'll be, have a really bad spell and then she'll be totally fine. And that would be concerning. So obviously this is a huge deal, and great job to Charles for at least suggesting
him. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a minute here. My turn. While I was watching this, the whole gamut of the situation kind of was enlightened to me. The way that they are acting, it's as if Elizabeth is a girl who grew up on a farm and her mother is sick in bed and cannot get out. And she's the only one who can help her. That's the sentiment. Do you agree that, you know, we have to send for her immediately? But then we get to Hamilton, Mom is walking up and down the stairs when she's not confusing. When she's not feeling very well, she's sitting. She's not in bed. She's sitting in the parlor.
Got her makeup on.
She's got her makeup and her jewelry, and she's dressed. There are two other daughters there who can look after her, but even if there weren't, there is a house full of servants. It's not like when Dad has gone to work that she's left all alone and needs to be looked after, not to mention the fact that they can pay for the best care possible. And so
you would think there'd be multiple doctors and multiple, that there'd be more going on.
Yeah, true. But when you think about it, Elizabeth really has nothing to do there except the comfort of having her daughter at home for Grace.
Yes. I feel like that is the purpose. I mean, they didn't say you need to come care for your mother. They said you need to come because she's not well. You know, so it was for me, the message they sent Elizabeth was more of, we don't know what's happening. You should see your mother again.
Which is another problem because she does not seem all that terribly ill. She's not even in a hospital. You know,
she's not even in her own bed. Yeah. So
she really has nothing to do there except
at least
be a part of society.
At least they did describe it in a way that when you find out what's wrong with her, it is clear that it's something that would ebb and flow.
Yeah, and ebb and flow, come and go. Yeah, but still, I mean, you have to kind of laugh at this situation and how dire they made it sound and what the situation really is. And I don't know. I have half an opinion that they did it solely to get her to see Charles again.
Oh, jeez. You're so silly.
I am. All right. So Elizabeth says, how can I ever thank you for everything you've done for my family? And he has a very quick answer.
Yes, doesn't he?
Usually it's
almost like he had that planned.
It was nothing. I'm happy to help, but no, not this time. It's let's have dinner, the two of us. And once again, I would love to, but I can't. I should be here just in case because my father isn't due back until, tomorrow? And Viola and Julie are calling on the Wellingtons. I'm like, there's a household of staff. They will make sure she's okay. You can go out to a restaurant for the evening. The look on her face
was worried about her mom, but
but she didn't look like she was eager to reject the invitation. She was more than happy to accept the invitation of a formal picnic with white tie and the works.
So
again, he is thinking on the spot. You got to give him credit.
Again, he pivoted really quickly. He read the room. He could tell what she was comfortable with and what she wasn't. And he knows her clearly through so many comments throughout this episode. He really does know the her that she was very well. And he's trying. And the whole picnic thing, that was adorable.
It was.
It was adorable. He lost a lot of points from me with having never eaten fried chicken.
Hey, he was eating it. He was eating it
with his fingers.
Yeah.
And he would enjoy it. He was genuinely confused why she would ever do anything that she didn't have to do
for herself. And he didn't lose points. He didn't lose
that points. Didn't lose points for me, but it enlightened me.
Oh,
I was like, this poor guy.
Yeah, that's what it did for me too. I was like, oh, honey. I mean,
what do you do in a situation where you need to eat? Like, if you don't
exactly. It reminded me, yes, she has Abigail to cook for her, but that's only because she's living with her because she burnt the teacherage down, which I guess she skipped over telling him.
Yes, didn't mention that part.
No, don't think so. But that's the funny thing is, why would you cook? Why would you cook when you have someone to do it for you? Honey, there is not a maid service in Coal Valley. It's just,
yeah.
But she has a very good answer. Sometimes it's about the little things, Charles. We don't always have to have things done for us. Thank you. Let's have a little bit of independence here. And he counters with, it's a shame you're so far away. Once again, she counters. It's part of the challenge. I need to know I can take care of myself. I'm like, yeah, honey, we should try it, Mr. Kensington III.
Yes, he should. Oh, goodness.
And she reiterates what her father said, what William said. A lot of things, because he asks, is that what this adventure has been about? And she says, it's been about a lot of things. Most of all, finding out answers about myself. Yeah, this is her, what a lot of kids would do either after high school graduation or after college graduation. This is kind of her backpacking trek in Europe.
Yeah.
Or the road trip around the US. This is her find herself trip. Just the problem is that back in 1910, most of the time, there was not a find yourself trip. It was you go into society and you stay there. Or if you were in a lower class, you got a job and that's what you did. So,
right.
Yeah. So, you gotta feel bad for the guy because yes, he is trying. Besides the fact that he's incredibly ignorant about the way real life outside of Hamilton is, he's not a bad person.
Yeah. He's getting mixed signals from her. He is.
It's true. It is true. She is giving mixed signals, which is another thing that really ticks me off. But we're not talking about that yet. Okay, so when they're talking about the prank that they played on Agatha,
which I have to say, I bet Aunt Agatha got a kick out of that. In the moment, she was probably really mad, but I bet she really thought it was funny in hindsight.
Probably laughed a lot later on, but I mean, she almost got arrested for stealing the silver. Oh my. And you look at the two of them and you recognize the history. You do. and they're laughing and giggling and just shaking their heads at themselves. And then poor Viola tries to jump in. She tries so hard to jump in and saying, I hid our governess's reading glasses. And then there's just the 3 seconds.
It took her several minutes to find them.
Yeah. It was but 3 seconds of dead silence and just Charles and Elizabeth looking at each other like, aha.
But what's great is, and at first I was thinking that Lionel was like being kind by laughing about it and making it seem like he thought that was cool. But then I was like, he probably thinks that's about the level he wants in a wife.
He probably wants that level of wickedness.
He's like, yes, you push the boundary this much. That's good for you.
Oh my. Okay, so
they really are a great match.
Oh, Lionel and Viola. Oh,
Lionel
absolutely.
and Viola.
Match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
there
Julie
is someone
said,
for everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What Julie said could not have been more perfect. He's attracted to her bank account and she's in love with his title. Brilliant.
And they're both very happy that way.
Uh-huh. Oh, I cringe to think of it, but to each his own or her own.
Yes.
Okay, now we're gonna go to the second couple, if you will. We're gonna
way over in Hope Valley.
Way over in Hope Valley. Let's talk about Bill and Abigail. Oh man. This is hard. This is hard because I remember watching this particular episode for the first time and just throwing up my hands in exasperation and going, I don't know what to make of this guy.
Right? That's what we have to remember when we're doing a rewatch is this at the time, we had no clue who Bill really was.
Yeah.
We're getting pulled back and forth just like Abigail was.
Yes.
And I don't think we didn't know until season 3 really much concrete which way he went. There was still some question until that season 3 premiere movie. And that's hard. That's hard to go back and forth. I mean, it's fun as the viewer to be like, oh my gosh, which way is it going to go? But that was really hard to go back and forth.
I seriously did not know which way to turn. Like, is he a bad guy or pretending to be a good guy? Or is he a good guy and he is entrapping the bad guys? I honestly did not know. I did not know how they were going to play him. And that scene when he is saying goodbye to Abigail,
So obviously I remembered the scene because I've seen this a bunch of times. However, it took me by surprise this time. I didn't remember it being like this big passionate goodbye with this big kiss. And I was like, is it too late? Is it too late to ship Bill and Abigail?
They looked so good together and they had such amazing chemistry and they had both lost a spouse, so we thought. And so yeah, they worked really, really well together. And it was, and so, oh man, when Nora shows up, of course you immediately don't like her, but I really, really, really did not like her. I mean, she had a lot of nerve. She didn't go after her husband. She went after the woman. I was like, really? Why?
So I believe it was in the last episode, in one of the first 2 episodes of season 2, when there was a comment made, and we forgot to address this in the last podcast, but there was a comment made between Gowen and Bill that alluded to the change of history that the writers were doing this season.
Yeah.
Alluded to the fact that Bill and Gowen had a history and knew each other before Coal Valley.
Yep.
Which was not the way it was written in season 1. No big deal. It's always confusing to me to watch season 1 and be like, why are they acting like they don't know each other?
They were just keeping up appearances.
Yeah, but no, because he met him in the mine and they were alone.
In front of the Pinkertons. In front of the Pinkertons, though.
Maybe. Okay, I'll give you. There's maybe a little wiggle room on that, but it was not. There was never a comment made about them knowing each other until season 2.
No, that's correct.
And then you've got Nora showing up, which they don't address in this episode, but I believe that was because of Gowen. I believe he contacted her.
Yes.
We know Gowen at this point in the series was not a super trustworthy person.
At all.
At all. And so I'll just say the information that Nora got probably wasn't super accurate either. And so that could explain why she went on the attack with Abigail. Again, that doesn't make it right, but I feel like she probably had a little bit of information that was leading her to think Abigail was a lot at fault here.
See, I wonder about that too, except Gowen knows the history. And there is this thing that Martin Cummins has said in an interview, that he and Lori played flirtation from the very beginning. Now, a lot of times it was flirtamies, but he said that they always played their scenes as if there was some level of attraction between the 2 characters somehow. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if it was Nora who jumped to conclusions and took things way out of proportion and jumped on Abigail, because every time Gowen insinuates anything with Bill around, it's, you're doing this. You're not being honest. So, I mean, maybe Gowen did say something against Abigail to Nora to get Abigail even more angry at Bill when Nora attacked
exactly.
her.
I don't think he would have done it with the intention of causing pain to Abigail, other than the fact that it would make it a more serious situation if she had that kind of confrontation. Mm-hmm. And would certainly, if she had just shown up and confronted Bill, Abigail might not have heard about all of it.
No, I think she would have.
Well, I mean,
it's a small town.
You might hear about it, but you might not hear all the details. And especially then if you are hearing Bill's side of it, I could see Gowen really wanting the confrontation between the ladies. And he would have known, he also would have known what Nora's state of mind is, and would have known she wants, you know, she kind of wants Bill in her life. So mm-hmm. She's not gonna attack him. She's going to get rid of the obstacle in her way.
Yeah.
Which is Abigail.
And well, it doesn't help that the scene right after the cafe is Bill meeting with 2 very shady men in the rain, in the dark, in a back alley.
And that does not look like what he said he was doing.
Being an expert in a criminal investigation.
Yeah, so I don't think that looks like that.
it doesn't help his case with the viewers. You know,
Yeah.
just like, what do we think of this guy?
They really raised a lot of red flags for him, and quite dramatically, back-to-back scenes.
But luckily, Abigail has a very odd confidant.
With great advice, right?
With great advice. Never commit your heart unless there's jewelry. We'll get into the irony of that much later down the road, but it's Rosemary is legitimately trying to help. And that's the only way she knows how, is by using her by using her own experience. And we find out that she was courted by the director of the Yankee Prince for a month before she found out that he was married. And what did she do? Gave that scoundrel.
Only Rosemary could.
Gave that scoundrel a black eye. You know, I would have liked to see that. Do you think she used her fist, or do you think she used a prop gun? You know.
I think she used her fist.
That would have definitely been fun to watch. So can we add boxer to the list of all of Rosemary's accomplishments from season 1?
I definitely think so.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Yeah. Rosemary is really, really interesting in this episode, because when Jack comes back, she doesn't suspect any foul play. Jack just says Elizabeth's mother is still ill. And it's funny how she's like peeking in the stagecoach. No, Elizabeth. And I mean, she says she'll be in my prayers. Yeah. Speaking about the mother and Elizabeth too. Yes. And like, that looked very sincere. And
I think this is the first episode she really comes across as starting to be a better person. I mean, person? I think in the first 2 episodes, she's still on the edge of maybe making trouble with the whole chicken fried steak thing, and kind of competing for Jack's attention with Elizabeth. And I think this is the first one where, yes, she's still doing that with Jack a little bit, but because Elizabeth's not there, it comes across more friendly.
Well, and the fact that Lee has now showed up, she has settled down a whole lot.
Yeah. Something new to keep her busy.
What does Jack say? A timber tycoon in need of female companionship?
I mean, she did not like that.
No, she didn't, but she knew it was true. I mean, and it was something she needed to hear. Because let's face it, yes, Lee is exciting. Yes, he's handsome. Yes, he was a man of mystery. And he's paying a lot of attention to Rosemary. But he arrived in Hope Valley and boom! Her eyes went immediately from Jack to Lee. And then when the competition was going on with the chicken fried steak, it went back to Jack. And I'm like, sweetheart. So, yeah.
And it's not over. There's a few parts in this episode. Where it definitely, you were kind of wondering still, like, is she trying to make Jack jealous? Even subconsciously, with all of her conversations with Lee.
Of course, he's not necessarily jealous though, because he doesn't want to be involved with her any longer.
But it could have been a subtle attempt at just like, well, I've got this other guy that's interested in me. I'm going to go see where that goes. And hey, if it happens to make Jack jealous, then
so speaking of which, I could not tell if she was trying to make Jack on edge about asking whether or not Elizabeth was going to return, but what does she care? I mean,
I think she still does. I think it's hard to let go.
No, I'm talking about classes are starting. School is starting soon. Like, what do you care?
Yeah, no, I totally think she was just trying to see if she could get a rise out of Jack, see if he would get frustrated, cry on her shoulder.
Which he didn't.
Nope.
He gave.
He's far too busy building her a schoolhouse.
Let's go there. So Lee is beginning the interview process, and he is putting a whole lot of people at ease when he says everyone who worked in the mine gets first crack at any jobs that the foreman can teach them to do. And because they say, we don't know the first thing about timber, we'll train you. It's no big deal to him. All he wants to do is get help. Yeah, he's there to help. And I'm jumping ahead a tiny bit here, but one line that I love, because it really has the true Lee shining through for the first time, I think, because he's been a little flashy up to this point, cavalier and man of mystery, but I came to Hope Valley to make a profit, but if I can, I'd like to make a difference too. It really shows he's not just a businessman. He is there to be part of the town and to do good where he can. But so Jack is there in an official capacity, settling.
This is obviously the first time he and Lee have spoken.
Oh my gosh, when they shook hands, I was like, I got it right here. Lee and Jack meet. And thus begins one of the best bromances in TV history.
Yeah, they really play off each other really well.
So well. I mean, this conversation, it helps both of their personalities shine through, and it moves the plot along, because with Jack there to calm everybody down, Lee just laughs and he says, "Thank you. And if I can return the favor," and Jack is immediately, he has something that he can do for him. You need help finishing the school, and if you could spare a few of your men, done, and I'll be there myself. Lee is so eager. He's so eager to help. And then that's when Jack says, "I like your attitude." And then, "Well, thank you. I came to Hope Valley, blah, blah, blah."
And I've always loved the scenes when they're building the church. I think there's just, Lee is this like office guy, this head of a company, and to see him rolling up his sleeves and pitching in and really making a difference and trying to become part of the community. And then you've got them starting to communicate, getting to know each other, and him trying to figure out Jack, which he's slowly figuring out the different connections around town, which especially the one that pertains to him the most, this history that he's picking up on. But it's just really sweet.
And it's funny because we forget, I don't know if we forget this just because they go back and forth between Hamilton and Hope Valley so much, but we forget Lee has not laid eyes on Elizabeth. He is going strictly on what the town is saying. And when DeWitt comes with the load of lumber, and immediately Jack and Lee both start, well, Lee mostly starts snickering. That boy is a goner. He is head over heels in love with a woman, just like you. And this is another point. I don't know how common knowledge it is that they've kissed in Hope Valley. Mm-hmm. But it's obvious that they are very well known to be the up and coming couple.
Yeah.
And so when I was first watching this interaction almost upset me, because Jack is trying to blow it off. And I'm just like, is that him trying to keep it cool? Is it him not wanting to talk about it? Or is it him kind of taking a cue from Elizabeth's attitude? But Elizabeth kissed him on the cheek right before he left. So
yeah, I think he, despite his reaction to Rosemary's pokes, I think that he is worried. I think he is concerned if she's going to decide to just stay in Hamilton, or if she's going to change her mind about what she wants. I think that he knows that she wasn't leading him on, but I think he knows that she's not confident in herself and her choices.
She hasn't quite made up her mind.
And I think there's just that little bit that he's concerned about. He saw how different she was raised, and he knows that that's going to be an uphill battle.
I think if he hadn't seen it, he would be a little bit more confident, but he did see it.
He was way more confident before he went to Hamilton.
Yeah. But you gotta love the interaction. Education is important for the future of Hope Valley. You may be selling, young man, but I'm not buying. Lovely.
Yep, I wrote that one down too.
Lovely. All right. So we've got another budding romance involving Lee, which is much better suited to him, don't you think? I wrote down in my notes when they were at the saloon talking about raising funds for the church. I said, this is a very public courtship that they are having here. Yeah. Because, I mean, it is a very public courtship, because Rosemary gets up. Mr. Lee Coulter has already bought a basket of my delicious homemade cookies for a $10 donation. And I'll pledge another $20 if you accompany me to the ice cream social. I'll consider it for $25. Done. Yeah,
it had a lot of it was very reminiscent of the pie or the cake sale in season 1.
The auction.
And I was just like, ooh, I'm a little surprised that Rosemary is okay with this type of public display of affection.
But are you really?
Accompanied by money.
But are you really? Because she's the flamboyant performer.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think she knows deep down inside that Jack is lost to her. She doesn't know all of the history going on between Jack and Elizabeth. And so he's not about to tell her. So I think that she is completely and totally enjoying it, because when Lee starts digging into her personal life, that's when she gets reluctant to talk. Yeah. She's not telling Lee that it was Jack. Lee figured it out. And it's a great scene.
I love that scene.
I do too. It's because we get a little bit of backstory about Lee, where his family had to tie pieces of straw together to make sticks. That's when he vowed that he would never run out of firewood, and now he owns a whole mountain of it. And then that's when he asked Rosemary, what brought you to Hope Valley, and personal reasons. And then in walks that personal reason. And it's just funny watching the three of them interact, knowing what we know, but them not knowing what all they know. Yeah. Like, what has he told her? What has he told him? What has he, all of that. It's really funny watching this triangle of a conversation. And you can also tell that put another log on the fire of annoyance. Rosemary cannot believe that he has spent all day with the schoolhouse building, and like, actually, that's exactly what I've been doing. And when Lee says, Miss Laveau was about to tell me what brought her to Hope Valley, I have my suspicions. It was an affair of the heart. Jack has a classic reply. I would be eager to hear the latest version.
Do you think that's the moment Lee knew? It's like, oh.
That's a really good question. What do you think? Do you think that
he would have? Well, at first I thought he knew, that already suspected, and that's why he brought it up in front of Jack. But I don't think he would have phrased it that way, and I think he would have brought it up to Jack without Rosemary there.
Yeah,
if he'd already known. And I think that kind of comment it wasn't necessarily enough to say that it was Jack, but it was definitely enough to say that there is a history between the two of them if he's ribbing her that way, and kind of, pushing on her and giving her such a hard time, that there's definitely a comfort between them. And there's no other reason for there to be a comfort unless they have a more personal history. So I think that's probably the moment when he.
I think the moment that he knew was when he says to Jack, I would love to figure that woman out. And then Jack grabs him on the shoulder and says, good luck with that. I think that's when he knew.
I think that, maybe that's when it was confirmed.
I think he had,
I bet it was that aha moment when Jack kind of teased her. But he's kind of like, I wonder. And so then he tested it out with that comment in front of just Jack.
And then
to get kind of a confirmation.
You're the reason she came out here. And once again, Jack is doing such a great job of keeping everything really peaceful, because this could have been a tumultuous relationship from the very beginning. And it really isn't. It has the regular bumps and all that, but when he says ancient history, you can tell that Lee is disappointed, but he's not down. He's not giving up. He's not beaten down. He's just, okay. But he's not done. You can tell.
Yeah. He realizes it's going to be a bit harder of a situation than he had hoped for.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so business-wise, things are going great, except for one tiny little problem. We've got the worst possible person that you could possibly have taking over as mayor. That is one of those events that you forget that it happened in this episode.
And even that it happened this early. I was thinking it was like just in the back of my mind. I thought it was way later in season 2.
It's a huge turning point, because I think that if we look back, we know Henry Gowen as two things: the supervisor for the mining, or the manager, whatever you want to get, whatever title you want to give him, for the mining company, and the mayor. And we don't really consider the in-between time. It's in that in-between time when he comes asking for a job and to Lee, and he says, everyone in town, right down to Constable Thornton's bloodhound, seems to think you're the devil himself. Like, give it to him straight, Coulter.
Right? I mean, he is not someone that can be bullied. He is not someone that can be pushed around. And he is great at, like you said, peacekeeper. He can just tell it like it is, but in a respectful way. He kept his cool when Gowen knocked over his lamp and broke it and practically threatened him.
What do you mean practically? He threatened him.
And he was just like, oh, try to be careful next time. I mean, I wouldn't be that calm.
I wouldn't either. I would say, all right, you out.
Yeah.
So.
And what's interesting is that Gowen's next move after that, after trying to threaten Lee and getting nowhere with it, that's his next move. Oh, I'm going to become the mayor.
Well, and not only he goes and tries to manipulate Lee and it doesn't work. So he goes to somebody that he knows he can manipulate. And then he weasels himself into being the mayor. And that's just, I mean, as a townsperson, I would be frightened. I would be frightened if this Henry Gowen, this version of Henry Gowen was made the mayor.
It's really interesting that the townspeople, after the trial, were still fine with him being on the city council.
Yeah. Much less on the city council. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I thought that they would have run him out of town.
But to leave him ahead of the city council, which now means he's moving into the mayoral position, that's pretty crazy that could happen.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to something a little bit lighter. It's still a criminal offense, but
it's a lot more hilarious.
It's a lot more hilarious. We've got two pastors. What?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Did you realize, watching it, that when Florence made the assumption and said, and introduced Jack to Frank Hogan, ding, there was a church bell. Did you notice that? With the background
I didn't notice that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. If you watch, and she says, this is the new Reverend Frank Hogan, and it goes, ding, it's a church bell right there. And I thought it was so perfect. I said, kudos to the music department right there. So, do you remember how much money he collected?
I didn't write it down. It was 200 something.
232. And his reaction, he's drinking the beer, then Florence brings up the box, $232. He just that'll buy a lot of Bibles.
Yeah, wow. Considering that they had the Bibles, and I mean, granted, he didn't come to town to pretend to be the pastor. That fell
he came as a salesman.
But yeah. it was interesting that if his approach was selling Bibles, that he was so not aware of a lot of things you'd find in the Bible.
Paraphrasing, of course.
Yes. They talk about building Rome a lot in the Bible. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I could not believe that he took it so far as to agree to perform Mary and DeWitt's wedding. I mean,
he didn't want to. You could tell.
No, he didn't want to, but oh man. but I mean, can we just take a moment and talk about how adorable those two are?
Oh, Mary and DeWitt. Oh my
Mary and
goodness.
DeWitt. Oh my
I
goodness.
love them.
I adore them, and they can't keep their eyes off one another. And he just stands and is ready to say, I asked Mary to marry me, and she said yes. It's just, they are so happy. And we got to see their story in season 1. And I was so glad that they fleshed it out and let us see and be a part of this wedding at the end of the episode. And a very scruffy, weather-worn man. I don't have a thing for full grown facial hair or anything, but a very scruffy and looks like a weather-worn man walks in right at the beginning of the ceremony with the very interesting words by Pastor Frank Hogan.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean, the first time you watched that, did you see that coming?
No.
Yeah, I mean, we knew he was fake, but
right.
I did not see the real Frank Hogan coming in and saying, because I'm Pastor Frank Hogan. You know, oh!
Well, and he was not, he wasn't, he was dressed kind of dirty. He'd been traveling, he didn't come across.
Yeah, he was weather worn.
Yeah.
And then Mary's panic. This isn't a real wedding. I mean, can you even imagine if they had gone through with everything and then it hadn't been real? That would have been the scandal of the century. You know, that they weren't really married, and it would have been terrible for them.
Yeah.
And of course, you got the constable as the resident best man, which
well, and I think it's funny too, because at this point, like, Frank doesn't know who he is.
No.
And he's like making threats about what to do with the criminals. And he's probably like, who are you?
I love how he kind of pushes him out of the way. Like, which I will do, as long as you promise to love, honor, and obey each other until death do you part. And boom, 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 we got a married couple.
That's the fastest wedding ever.
But it suited them.
It was really sweet.
Yeah, just like Mary said, we're simple folk. But I love the different ideas of what to do with them. Florence says, I think you should lock him up and throw away the key. And Frank says, we could shoot him. The best part about this whole thing is Lee's reaction.
Laughing. Because you could just tell he knew it was a joke. He picked up on that humor, and he was like, this guy's awesome. I like him.
I mean, and the panic on the fake Frank. Wow, say that 10 times fast. The panic on the fake Frank's face, and then Lee going.
Yeah, that was just perfect timing with the camera angles and everything. And the fake Frank, is it Paul McGillian?
Yeah.
He had so many great facial expressions throughout this.
Oh my gosh. I love his face.
He was a great actor for this type of role where he's clearly pulling something over on people and they don't know it. And he was just like that. It was some great expressions.
Yeah. All right. So let's move to the final moments. I have a feeling this was done on purpose, but I couldn't help but notice this.
Uh-huh.
You have the very, very formal wedding announcement, or should I say engagement announcement at the Regency. And ordering champagne and a very, very quiet toast to true love with somebody shooting Cupid's arrow out of his eye.
So interesting to me. Another great example of how Elizabeth's family carries themselves is Viola announces her engagement, and she's so excited that she just like can't sit still, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet they all sit still.
And it's at the Regency.
Nobody gets up and hugs each other. Elizabeth doesn't even reach her hand out to pat her, nothing, just like, oh, congratulations. You know, I mean, that's it with a sibling. And clearly you're the first people being told about this engagement. They were trying to keep it a secret. And for the excitement level that Viola appears to have for it, there is still a containment of like proper,
a big containment.
This is the etiquette of what we do. We're in this formal place, and we don't raise our voices above a certain pitch, and we don't move.
And then contrast that with Jack eating his cake in the saloon, watching everyone dancing and laughing and celebrating this brand new union that we were all gunning for in season 1. You know, it's such an interesting juxtaposition. And I'm so glad that they put the scenes right next to each other. Yes, because it really, I don't know if I noticed it the first time through or the second time through. Never mind how many times I've watched this. But I definitely noticed it this time when I was going through it with more of a critical eye, that these two scenes are almost the same thing. They're dealing with the same theme. And there's a very different reaction. And it just shows the different worlds.
The contrast of the different worlds that Elizabeth and Jack were raised in, and the choice that Elizabeth has to make of what direction her life is going. And I mean, granted, she doesn't see the juxtaposition. She's not seeing what's happening right now.
Which is almost kind of sad, because she was very involved in their courtship, you know?
It is.
It's kind of sad that she misses the wedding.
Yes.
When you think about it. All right. Well, Hearties, that's what we have for you for season 2, episode 3, Heart and Soul. And
so homework assignment is everyone needs to think about my new name.
What is Sarah's new name going to be? Has to have Hearty in there somewhere. And we will see you for
next time.
Bye.
Bye, Hearties.